Well, good afternoon. How's your day going aside from, having to do press and talk about yourself a lot?
All good. It's going fine.
Sure. Well, new record out in a couple days. Some people are saying it's your finest solo album yet. Did you know all along when you were making it that it was going to come out on Fantasy?
Uh, yeah, I mean, you know, uh, my I guess the last record came out on Fantasy, and the one before it came out on Stax, but they're all part of the same label group.
Right, Concord. And
Yeah, this one could have gone either way, I guess.
did this album get made at Power Station New England? Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Got it. So, what made you choose to record there? Because you're forever synonymous with Asheville, but then again, you're a man of the road. You appear in a lot of places.
Well, I've actually done three records in a row there. We did both Heavy Load Blues and Peace Like a River, the last two Government Mule records at that studio. I really like it a lot, and I'm very comfortable there. It's a great place to record.
When did you actually finish the record?
What's that?
When did you actually finish the record? Because sometimes you hear that albums were done for 3 years and they waited to shop it around. And other times you hear the album was announced before it was actually finished.
We started this record in January of this year and finished it not too much longer, not too much later than that. Initially, I think there was talk of it being out a little sooner, but
Mhm.
it's it came about pretty quickly.
Yeah. And it has some great guests on there, including Lucas and Jamie Johnson and all that. Did you know that you wanted to have guests and collaborators? In other words, when you say I'm going to make a record, do you have it blueprinted out about who's going to be on and which songs go? Or is some of it you just get in the studio and see what happens?
Well, in the case of Lucas Nelson and Jamie Johnson, um, that song goes back to uh, COVID lockdown times. It was written during that time, and I had showed it to Lucas and Jamie, and Lucas had some great ideas on how to take it into another direction, and then Jamie started singing this low kind of gospel counterpoint
Hmm.
at one point, and so I thought it would be nice when we actually recorded the song to include them. I love the way the three of our voices blend together. We worked together on the last Waltz tour, and it's a beautiful blend with Jamie on the bottom, myself in the middle, and Lucas on top. We also did a version of "Find the Cost of Freedom," the Crosby, Stills, Nash song that uh, is that segues into Day of Reckoning, a longer version of Day of Reckoning that we uh, included on the deluxe edition as a bonus, a little bonus CD. In the case of the songs that Derek Trucks was involved with, uh, I went to his place. He has a farm outside of Macon, Georgia, and we spent 3 days riding down there uh, and wrote four or five songs, two of which wound up on this record.
Hmm.
Um, These Changes, which opens the album, and Hall of Future Saints, which closes the album. Both of those feature the guitar interplay between the two of us. And Derek co produced uh, those songs as well as Real, Real Love, which is the third song that he was part of. That's a song that Greg Allman had started writing and never finished, and I completed it after he passed away. And after I finished writing it, I had called Derek and told him about it, and that we had mentioned that we should record that song together. So that was kind of the impetus for this reunion, so to speak. It turned into us spending 5 days together and to collaborating for the first time since the Allman Brothers stopped playing.
Yeah. And, looking at your career, Derek is just one of the people that you've been working with on and off for decades. There's a lot of long term friendships and relationships in your career, which is very admirable. So, one thing I'm curious about is how much of your career is planned versus things happening organically? And I say that because sometimes when I see you live, it's you up there solo acoustic, and sometimes it's you as part of a legendary band, and sometimes it's a tribute thing, and sometimes it's Government Mule. In other words, you could see Warren Haynes 5 times live, and it could be 5 different configurations and projects.
Well, I've always enjoyed that aspect of my life and of my career. Uh, I've always felt the need to express myself in a lot of different ways.
Hmm.
I love so many different types of music. I write a lot of different types of music. I enjoy playing and singing a lot of different types of music. And so to have that opportunity and not take it would be a waste for me. I feel like if I just did one thing all the time,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be happy. So I'm very lucky to be able to do that. Um, as far as how much is planned, very little, I think. Usually throughout my career, which fortunately has lasted a long time, usually I'm just kind of doing whatever feels right at the time and basing my decisions on what seems best for me. I've never been good at second guessing the business or the marketplace or trying to do what I think people might expect me to do. That's just never been something that I excelled at. I feel like if you do what's in your heart, then the audience will get that, and hopefully more often than not be there with you and enjoy what you're doing.
But at the same time, it's been very interesting as a fan to watch you evolve because your original success, playing with David Allan Coe, having the Garth Brooks co-write or the song rather that he recorded that you had co-written, a lot of people would have been pigeonholed to country for the rest of their lives. But that's just one chapter. And then we look at all of your success in the jam world, the classic rock world, the singer songwriter world. You're really, really hard to pigeonhole at this point in time, which must be exciting for you as somebody who likes to do a lot of different things.
Yeah, I don't think any artist or any musician, for that matter, wants to be pigeonholed. Uh, I know, as an example, the Allman Brothers always hated the term Southern rock. They
Sure.
were very allergic to that. I remember Greg Allman responding one time that it was a bit redundant, that it was kind of like saying rock, rock, seeing as how rock music came out of the South anyway. Um, but nobody really wants to be stereotyped, but I understand why it happens. People need
Yeah.
a way of describing your music, and I get that. But I think there's a lot of fans out there that have similar tastes to mine, meaning that they go all over the place. If you look through what used to be somebody's vinyl collection, then became somebody's CD collection, then became their playlists or whatever. If you
Hmm.
look through people's music collection, for the most part, you're going to find a lot of surprises. And I think that's a healthy thing. Uh, I enjoy doing whatever I'm doing at the moment, and it keeps me fresh to go back to whatever I'm going to do next with a clear head.
And going through your discography, it's been interesting to see how many hard rock or borderline metal things have popped up over time. Corrosion of Conformity, Pretty Reckless, Blackberry Smoke has been on there. Jason Newsted guested on a Government Mule thing or two, if I remember correctly. Were you ever a hard rock or metal person?
When I was really young, well, let's go all the way back to the beginning since we're almost there. Um, my first love was soul music.
Hmm.
At my house, I had two older brothers. At a time when they only had a handful of records, they were all Sam and Dave and the Four Tops and the Temptations and the Supremes and Stevie Wonder and Aretha Franklin and Otis Redding and Wilson Pickett. They were also listening to the Beatles and the Stones. And then as my oldest brother started getting into rock music, I started hearing Sly and the Family Stone, and then eventually Hendrix and Cream and Johnny Winter and Jeff Beck and all this stuff. At some point along the way, I was listening to Black Sabbath and Deep Purple, and of course Led Zeppelin, which everybody was listening to.
Sure.
You know, I thought I outgrew some of that stuff at an early age because my taste was changing, and I was listening to more blues and jazz and like all different types of music. But now when I go back and hear some of that music that I was listening to as a kid, it's great stuff, and has become timeless in its own way, the same way as all the other stuff that I love has.
I find that you can never get tired of Black Sabbath or Van Halen. As much you can try, you never do.
Well, I am probably a little older than you, so by the time Van Halen hit, I was a little older, and it didn't hit me the same way some other stuff did. I always loved that music and thought they were fantastic, but my head was somewhere else by the time they came along. I did manage to see them twice, once
Oh,
in the early 80s and once a few years ago when they did a reunion. Government Mule got invited to this private show at the LA Forum where there was like 700 people in a 18,000 seat place. And it was fantastic. Both times I saw them, they were great.
so that was the show, I believe, where Zach Wilde tried to get on stage and they had to bounce him off.
Oh, I didn't know that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, last question I have for you before I let you go. And again, it's exciting that you've got this new record. You're playing near here on Long Island at Looney Tunes. You're going to the Caribbean for a nice Government Mule and solo gig as well. So glad to see you're out there. Last question is, all everyone knows about you is you're a family man and you got the music thing going on. What's the main passion or hobby when you're not making and writing records and touring behind those records or spending time with your family? Because no one knows that about you.
Well, I'm a big fan of comedy, and been a huge fan pretty much my entire life. But I probably honestly would say when I'm not touring or recording or traveling, spending as much time with my son is really the most important thing. He's just turned 13, and
Hmm.
he's a hockey fan and he's a basketball fan. So we go to see the Knicks, we go to see the Rangers. We're going tonight to see the Yankees and the Dodgers at the World Series. So it's funny because I'm having to learn about hockey. I didn't grow up with hockey, but since my son's into it, I'm becoming a fan.
Yeah.
And when I think about basketball and baseball, I knew much more about it in the 70s than I know about it now. But I'm getting kind of re-excited about the whole thing, and it's fun to be able to experience it with my son.
When you're on the good side of James Dolan, I'm sure that has perks. So congrats to you on that end. But thank you for the many years of great music. Looking forward to what's to come, whether you're the feature, the side man, whatever it is, Warren. Looking forward.
Thank you.
Paltrocast.